All right, let's get started. You guys heard that one, right? Normally I have a microphone and I yell at the same time, but tonight I don't have a microphone unless you're on the web, in which case you actually can hear me because this microphone works, but the one I normally use to address all of you is on the fritz. So that means I'll talk loudly, and when you ask a question during our 20-minute Q&A that's starting about now, I will repeat the question so everyone can hear it until my voice fails, at which point I'll whisper. And we had an announcement about fluoride. I didn't know if you were sitting on the edge.
I have a loud voice.
Take it away.
Okay. Once you get near his microphone.
Oh, yeah, here.
I have a loud voice.
You know, this is for the web, though. Just
How close do we have to be?
All right. Yeah, that works.
He won't care. The 3 petitions are going around. This is a petition to change one word in the fluoride law. AB 733 requires water boards of 10,000 customers to put fluoride in your drinking water in 13 states. California is one. This is a petition to change that word mandate to option, to make it an option to put water in the you know what I mean. So they're passing around. We hope you would sign. You do not have to be a citizen of California. You do not have to be registered to vote because it's going to go to the legislature en masse in the September, and the legislator can change laws for one word. So, but it is the first step toward possibly getting some control of fluoride. So they're passing around, and I have little green handouts of some of the most recent developments and current status of fluoride. I will tell you, I've been trying to organize in Santa Clara County for the last 18 months, and it is impossible to find people who care enough to step up and say, I'll be of some service. Anyway, have most of you signed this now? A couple of us have been going around. We don't have to pass it, but we'll have it up the board, and at break time, I'll be handing it out.
It'll be up here at the break. I'm going to now. All right, and we have a new Smart Life rule. If your cell phone goes off, you have to sing a song. You got the one grace period. There's other 2 things that help to support us. This is my new book, published by Wiley in January, about epigenetics and fertility and health. It has a lot that's not about pregnancy, but it is targeted at people who are interested in fertility kind of health. I'm happy to sign them. At the front, they're cheaper for Smart Life members, and I'm donating a portion of what happens tonight from that. And I brought lots of upgraded coffee because people always want it. It's cheaper here than it is online. It's 15 for 1, or sorry, 20 for 1 or 2 for 35. Thank you. So that's here if you'd like some, and I'm donating a portion of that already discounted price to support the stuff we do, like the new mixer board that we will be buying for $300 this month because this one apparently just broke. That said, we have time for about 18 minutes of our forum section, the Q&A period. This is the time when anyone who's a member can ask a question about anything they like, and the other people here answer the questions. And if none of them answer it, I'll answer it. But I'm not here to answer them, I'm here to moderate. So, question, I see one already. And I'll repeat it for you.
I'm a lay person, but I have attended these meetings before and wanted to come tonight to get your opinion about my situation. I was diagnosed with lung cancer 2 weeks ago. I have adenocarcinoma, and I belong to Kaiser. I'm going before 2 tumor boards next week and need to come up with a treatment plan. And I've done some research on the web. It looks as if the outcomes are not real positive, but I'd like to change that for myself. And I would be interested in hearing about any alternative methodologies that anyone thinks could be helpful, or any.
So the question is, our member here has adenocarcinoma or lung cancer, diagnosed 2 weeks ago, and is looking for advice on putting together a treatment plan so she can go in with her physicians and talk with them about it. So anyone like to make a suggestion here? I am going to say speak very loudly, because if you don't, I'm going to stand in front of you and make you speak loudly. So go for it.
Okay, I'm going to come up there, so.
Yeah, I guess I should like drop. Otherwise we have to hug. It's kind of weird.
Okay, well, first of all, you want to be very proactive towards your situation. As a lot of people here I'm sure will also have some input in, you want to find out as much as you possibly can looking at good research-based information from a quote-unquote alternative viewpoint. Now, I don't know how much background you have as far as options, but the research on what you can do with nutrients and lifestyle factors from a functional medicine approach, have you heard that term before? No, okay, all right. Well, a functional medicine approach is where you look at the underlying processes involved in disease and health, and you influence those processes at multiple levels, thereby influencing the health processes either for the good or bad. And obviously, from a functional medicine viewpoint, you want to influence them for the good. But what underlying processes are involved in cancers or many other degenerative processes are, for instance, one underlying process is inflammation. Inflammatory processes are involved at the root of many disordered functional processes that lead to disease. So I could get very specific on what you could do, but I want you to you need to change your thinking as to let's deal with the underlying processes and not just influence symptoms, so to speak, but to get to the underlying processes. For instance, one underlying process in cancer is how cancer cells handle sugar as opposed to how normal cells handle sugar. And that's an underlying, a basic process that you can influence depending on dietary factors, certain nutritional factors. So there's a lot, I'm sure, that a lot of us can give you input on, but you want to, I want to encourage you. Do not just, you're going to be told, especially at Kaiser, I'm a health practitioner, I've been in practice for 23 years. I'm a functional medicine doctor. And you're going to be told that, well, this is the only thing you can do at Kaiser, and this is it, and you only have this much time, and you have to do this, and you're going to be scared into being given a choice that is not really a choice because you're not fully informed of the options. So that's where I'd start, and I'm sure a lot of other people can give you input too.
One of the sites worth looking at is cancerdecisions.com, the work of Ralph Moss. His work is kind of expensive, but it's an exhaustive compilation of every single alternative and traditional therapy, basically saying how does it work for your kind of cancer. Another site, one that's maybe more inspirational, is called Crazy Sexy Cancer. This is a woman I know, very, very powerful online voice. She's lived for 10 years with cancer that they told her was going to kill her 5 years ago, and is reversing it actively. And she's, I wouldn't agree with all of her dietary recommendations about raw kale, but she's a powerful voice and worth listening to. Bern?
There's some very exciting new research.
You gotta put this part by your mouth.
Sorry. Just want to share something because I do a lot of cancer work right now, and recently there's a published paper that's going to be presented, and the number one thing of all the success they had over chemo, radiation, surgery, IPT, ozone therapy, virtually every protocol, and Mark Rosenberg and the foundation just at the A4AM just gave a presentation on this in San Diego. The number one thing you want to do if you have cancer that will protect you and probably give you the longevity survival is exercise. Nothing else even came close to the survival rate of patients with cancer. It was exercise. And one of the persons we worked with was many years ago, as you know, Lance Armstrong. He worked with us in changing a diet and nutritional program, But the reason he survived was because his exercise training was incredible, endurance. And so what I would tell you to do, go into a whole exercise program, resistive exercise, some cardio, walking. You will have a greater chance of survival. Number two, there's a fellow by the name of Scott Scher in San Francisco. He's a phenomenal 34-year-old MD with an alternative mind that is incredible. Go and get a hyperbaric chamber. That was the number 2 successful research paper that came out, was hyperbaric chamber. So those two were the most impressive results so far given by the recent conference put on by Mark Rosenberg and A4M.
Thanks, Brian.
What about Wainwright's soybean?
No. Everything, they evaluated every study out there using Protocell, Hoxsey formula, Wainwright, everything, and we use Wainwright for 20 years. And I'll tell you, it's good, but it's nothing. Exercise, number 1. This is truly the new research.
Got it. Susan, you had something?
There's a lot of, one comment,
First this, and then we'll get to the...
there's a lot of research that if you exercise too much, that's going to be damaging as well. It increases inflammation and oxidative stress, so moderate exercise, not excessive exercise.
Resistive exercise was number 1.
Yeah, excessive exercise exhausts your adrenal glands, and you need some adrenal reserve, so the right amount. We had is it a question or comment?
Question, should she avoid chemotherapy?
Okay, but part of the answers here should be, what about chemotherapy? And we have another healthcare provider opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it really short and simple for you, but a couple things. First, don't rub anything that's carcinogenic on your skin. So go to cosmeticsafetydatabase.com, look up all of your skin products, all of your makeups. If you see anything with parabens or propylene glycol, these are all carcinogen compounds, and they're going to go right through your skin into your blood, and that's going to increase tumor cell growth. Every physician or every oncologist will give you a PET scan. That's positron emission tomography. What they're doing is they're giving you a sample of radioactive glucose, and they're seeing where it's taken up because they know that cancer cells feed on glucose. So get the majority of your carbohydrates through essentially bulletproof vegetables, right? A lot of your cruciferous, steam them, get rid of the goitrogens. Organic, make sure all of the pesticides are gone because those are all carcinogenic compounds. So really just take the carcinogens out of your diet and out of your skincare, and really make sure you're eating nutrient-dense foods. That'd be your first step. And get a good vitamin D test. Keep that between 60 and 100. That'd be an optimal level to fight cancer. There's a lot more you can do, but I'll just keep it simple for you there.
The 60 to the 60 to 100 question over here was the levels of vitamin D in the blood. So when you get a vitamin D test, it'll be between basically 0 and most people don't go above 100 unless they're really mega dosing. So that's the number there. Does anyone have specific info about chemo other than insulin potentiated therapy, which says if you're going to do chemo, do it with insulin so you can use a fractional amount of the chemo without doing nearly as much damage to the body, because the cancer cells like to suck up anything when there's sugar. So you give them the poison and the sugar at the same time, they die preferentially over your other cells. Other than that, do we have a specific chemo thing here? I suspect this is an audience that mostly is going to say, try and steer away from it, but there may be someone who has... I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I suspect in this audience that that's something you will hear. But the other part of that sentence is that some forms of chemo are very powerful for some forms of cancer, right? So I would not throw chemo out, but I would look at both the natural and the less natural options and look at the data on what do we know works, what do we know doesn't, and make that decision. It's very individualized, and you should work with your doctors on that question. But any other specific chemo knowledge that we should talk about? One here, then one over there, then one up there.
So if you ever were to go the chemo route, you definitely want to get chemosensitivity testing done. They do this over in Germany. So if you were ever to go that route, you want to make sure that your tumor is actually sensitive to the chemotherapy that you're getting. If you were my mother personally, I would look more alternative routes, but if you were to go the more conventional route, you want to make sure the medicine you're using is at least sensitive to the tumor.
Okay, quickie. And then we've got over there.
I would also make sure that you support if you're going to do the chemo, you make sure that you support normal cell function and try to, as much as possible, prevent oxidative stress. There's a study that came out in 2008, I believe, that showed that in opposition to what is a lot of oncologists will tell you, many proper antioxidant in whole nutrient form antioxidants, not DL alpha tocopherol for vitamin E, for instance, but the different D gamma, D beta, D delta tocopherol vitamin E forms, for example, is something that you want to use. So you're not going to go to your big box or normal pharmaceutical store, I won't mention any names, but and get something off the shelf, but you're going to have to get active form nutrients that are going to be professional line and are going to cost more, but they're better quality. But you do want to make sure that you look at the papers regarding antioxidants and concurrently with chemotherapy, because the oncologists are going to tell you one thing, but the research shows another.
I want to make sure that we cover another topic as well. So I would like to move us on from the cancer discussion. During the break, if you have more to offer, I think it'll be easy to find you. Just stand over here maybe, and you'll get more feedback, I'm sure. Okay, a question about, maybe we could do two, let's see.
Well, it is still cancer, but it's thyroid cancer. And I've had 3 clients lately that presented with thyroid cancer, and they're all being told you need the thyroid out, and one absolutely doesn't want to go that route. So any suggestions around thyroid cancer and the increase in it, and what would be done alternatively if she doesn't want to have it out?
What kind of thyroid cancer?
You know, as moderator, I apologize. We've spent almost the entire time on cancer, and there's a whole bunch of other topics. Let's talk about that during the break. I want to make sure we get a broad range of things for everyone who comes from alternative things. I love the question. I'd like to spend time on it, but not right now.
Very quick announcement. If anyone here is evaluating supplements or doing experiments to evaluate regimes, I have a nearly free research assistant for you. Let me know. It's a young woman who is a clinical pharmacological researcher from Japan looking for a position. Come see me.
Talk to me.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Any aging, wellness, hormones, osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease, strokes? Oh, wait, I mentioned medical conditions. Feeling lovely, happiness, depression, anything else? Otherwise, we're going to go back to cancer, and I have no problem with that.
Question about your diet, okay, your bulletproof diet.
All right.
What's the one thing that you would stay away from? What's the one thing you positively will do?
The one thing I would stay away from on the bulletproof diet would be mold toxins called mycotoxins, which are very common in a lot of processed foods. At that same level, though, is omega-6 processed oils are so incredibly damaging, and gluten is at that same level. I mean, any of those 3, like, they're all kryptonite, essentially. Sorry, that wasn't only one. And the one thing I would definitely do, medium-chain triglyceride oil. I think that's critically important because you can't eat enough coconut oil to get enough MCT to be as useful as it could be. It takes, 6 pounds of coconut to make 1 pound of MCT oil, and the new upgraded brain octane stuff that I just came out with takes 18 pounds of coconut oil to make 1 pound of it. So if you want to get like unnatural levels of good nutrition, that's a way to get the concentrated benefits. So those are like some core things, and grass-fed butter is right after that. All right, you've had a lot of airtime, buddy. I'm kidding. Is it a comment?
A very close second as far as the MCTs, but very close second, dark green leafy vegetables. Do.
Now on the leafy vegetables, since we're on that front, it's really worth cooking your dark green leafy vegetables. It's so common to say, I am a good person. I ate this bitter raw kale, so therefore I am good and pure. Unfortunately, you also increased your oxalic acid levels dramatically, and you probably slowed your thyroid function. This is a major problem, and like cavemen and your parents didn't actually eat raw kale because they knew this. And I just wrote a big blog post with a lot of research about oxalic acid crystals forming in the body. And one of the side effects of excess oxalic acid in the body is vulvodynia, which is painful sex in women, which is a very unpleasant thing. I've had it in my family. And so it's very important. Prepare your foods properly, and raw is not always better than cooked. Raw is wonderful for some vegetables, raw is not wonderful for others, and you need to know the difference. We're going to go here and then there.
You're absolutely right about raw vegetables. First of all, when we were working at UCLA, we did a study on raw vegetables versus steam and sauteed. Actually, there's higher levels of antioxidants when you steam or saute them, and you make the fiber more digestible. So you actually make it more digestible to eat than raw vegetables.
In other words, boil your salad. All right.
So where do you go to find out about that?
Where do you go to find out about that? I'm chairman of SVHI and all that. I also run a blog called The Bulletproof Executive. You can get the Bulletproof Diet for free on there, which summarizes this in an infographic. So I'm happy to answer questions about that, but this isn't a bulletproof meeting. It's a generalist meeting, but it's a free diet. That's why when you heard bulletproof vegetables and the recommendations, they're summarized on a single sheet. Bulletproofexec.com, yeah. Bulletproof Executive, EXEC.com. Or just search for bulletproof food and it'll come up on Google. I think we have maybe one more minute and then we're going to go on.
Since you're a great researcher, what's the story on kidney stones?
Question is, what's the story on kidney stones? Anyone in the audience want to answer kidney stones?
B pollen will help, and B6.
B pollen and B6?
Yeah, that's
excess calcium, excess uric acid, which comes from fructose, beer, and it is possible from red meat, although fructose is a much more likely cause than red meat in my experience. Let's see, and excess free calcium and not enough magnesium are big contributors. Any other comments? Just pass that back one. Talking to the little one. Yeah.
Okay. What about Dr. Levitt's last month's speaker, megadose of vitamin C IV?
Vitamin C IV for kidney stones?
Or cancer?
Vitamin C IVs for cancer. Definitely, it's worth looking at Dr. Levy's work. I think the most vitamin C I had was 100 grams by IV per day for 2 days, along with another 250 orally. So when you're really sick, your body will soak up vitamin C like no one's ever seen. It's kind of amazing. All right, last one before we go to what's next.
It's magnesium citrate, also for kidney stones.
Generally, most people are magnesium deficient in a major way. So if you're in this group and you're not on magnesium, it is definitely time for you to get on magnesium. For the average adult, at least 800 milligrams a day would be the right thing to do. With that, I'm going to close our Q&A portion. I'm going to announce some of our next topics coming up here, and then I'm going to introduce Dr. Miller. Coming up in July, we've got Doug Husbands and Patricia Meyer. That's going to be a really amazing talk, I think, about adrenals. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Oh, okay. HPATGG. Sorry, didn't hear you. Let's see. Coming after that, we don't have everything. Steve Blake, natural approach to arthritis. Sorry. That would be October. August is Jerry Katzenol speaking on autism. September.
Justin will be speaking.
He's
Justin will be speaking as well on thyroid.
Thank you. So we have a long list here. I'm not going to read anything beyond 3 months. Sorry. September, Dr. T and a panel on nutrition. So coming up here, you'll hear about a variety of things. But tonight,
Pam had some books on the table, and some of them were signed for relatives, etc., and they walked away. If anybody knows where they might have gone, I mean, Pam lost some money on that.
Dr. Levy's vitamin C books with the two DVDs that went with it. I think a lot of people were under the misunderstanding that they were free. They weren't. They were $20 a piece. And Don had a book that was signed by Dr. Levy to his daughter, and that book is missing. And we'd like to get that book back if possible, and just exchange it for a book that's not signed.
So yeah, please check if you have one of those books. That would be really nice. All right. On that note, I'd like to introduce Dr. Bruce Miller. Have a seat. Dr. Miller specializes in behavioral neurology and holds a distinguished professorship in neurology at UCSF. This means he works with our fearless leader, Susan. In case any of...
He doesn't. He's at a much higher level.
He's at a higher level, at the same kind of, UC something something. Now, despite the modesty of Susan here, I don't know if all of you know that Susan took over as our president and that I'm chairman, but when Susan speaks, you should listen because she's the big boss woman now.
And we're made of all of our members. Yeah, all of our members are important. I'm just facilitating it.
Yes, ma'am.